my name is Ritama. Today I'm going to talk about a specific subject about history with all of you. Now I'm going to talk about today, of course, how humans began to settle down and how they invented how to do agriculture, how they understood how to domesticate animals. We're going to talk about that today. So first, you need to understand that humans didn't always do agriculture and things. First, humans were apes. I mean, humans are not apes today, but they came from apes. Now, these apes had long arms, long fingers, and they had opposing thumbs. What do I mean by opposing thumbs? It means that if you have a hand like this, the thumb is not like this. It comes like this. Like, say in other animals, the thumb is not always like this. It doesn't come. You cannot move it from here to here. So that's why it's called an opposing thumb. And apes had that as well. You know, apes like chimpanzees. Chimpanzees also have this feature. It's just that we do not have as much hair as a chimpanzee. That's probably one of the main differences you can spot. Then humans had many stages, like the Australopithecus, or the apes who walked on two legs, and they looked a bit like humans, but they're not exactly humans. We're not going to go deep into that. I'm just talking about an example. So also a 3 lakh year old skeleton was discovered in Ethiopia, and to talk about what she was named, I don't know if it was a male or a female, but from the name you can probably guess it, even though I'm not sure. Because we're not talking about that today. So while the people discovered the skeleton, the song "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds" was playing. So they just decided to name the skeleton of the Australopithecus Lucy. So that's just one example. We are not going into that today. So now we know that they evolved gradually, and now our Homo sapiens have decided to, of course, when the Homo sapiens was still there and the Ice Age was there, then we had to evolve. We had to use fire, but we still didn't settle down. Even with the Ice Age, we started moving around. Then we started to hunt animals. We started to do all kinds of things with the animals. We invented tools, such as many tools, like fire. Fire was one of the tools, even if it's not made of stones or wood or
plates
or whatever. It's still a tool which the people use to hunt animals. I want to give you an example. I really wish I could give you one. So I can say, for an example, let's say, just giving you an example, I can say that suppose there was a huge group of what kind of animals? Say bullocks. So, or oxen. Say there are many oxen. Humans wanted to hunt them down. What would they do? They would set fire. Then all the animals would run away, and while they were running, they would enclose that side too with fire. So they were trapped. Now with their weapons, they could hunt the animals, and so they use fire in that way. There are more crazy ways in which they use this fire. For example, say there is a forest, and the only animals that they have learned how to hunt are, say, zebra and deer and animals like that, which are herbivores. Okay, so I hope you know what herbivores are. If you know science, and if you are a science expert, you should definitely know. You have learned that herbivores are animals which eat grass. Carnivores are animals which eat meat. And omnivores, okay, we're not talking about science. Omnivores are animals which eat both plants and animals. That's it. So now, they say they've learned how to hunt herbivores. Now, they do not want to enter forest because forests generally house more dangerous animals. such as tigers and panthers. So what can they do? They were not sensible about the environment at all. So they decided to set fire on the forest, and then once the entire forest burns down, they will come back, expecting to see all the animals that they can hunt. Yes, it was very irresponsible of them, and it was not all eco-friendly. But they didn't know any better. But you know better, so don't do that. So, now, they used to hunt food. But then, climate started to change. Even before the climate started to change, there was the population was maintained. Say, 1 million people over the whole world. Can you believe that? That's so little for the whole world. That's around, not even as, I think that's somewhere close to, say, the population. So, what I can say is, while the people were hunter-gatherers, a population was maintained. But with agriculture coming in, let me get into how agriculture started in the first place. So, first there were climatic changes. Why? Because the ice age was ending. Ice age started to end, mammoths started to die, animals started to die. Now what could they hunt? Now, even if they found small animals, they would be too small for an entire family. Even if they found it, they were expecting a lion or a tiger to kill it in 5.5 milliseconds. So, what historians believe is that due to climatic conditions, all these big animals started to die. However, they started to notice something very interesting. Wheat started to grow. Now this wheat, it was not that humans were strangers to wheat at all. No. When humans were hunter-gatherers, they would still use wheat. Now what are hunter-gatherers? I hope you know it. Hunter-gatherers, we just discussed about it. Hunter-gatherers are people who hunt for food and gather nuts and veggies and fruits and berries. That rhymed. Anyways. So, those are hunter-gatherers. So now when people were hunter-gatherers, we've talked about it, they used to get food from nature around them. They used to hunt, they used to gather, what I've told you. So they used to do all this to get their food. Now when they did this, their diet was extremely luxurious, their bodies were big and strong. So they had a great diet. Even if they were becoming a little harmful to the environment, I should say. So even with that, they had been eating wheat. But why did we talk about it? Because they didn't eat wheat too much. They didn't eat wheat as much as they ate all the other kinds of foods. Wheat was not a major portion of their diet. So since that was the case, hence we can conclude that people started eating the wheat because all the other food sources were decreasing and the availability of wheat started to increase rapidly. With this happening, we can say that they started feeding on wheat. All the other kinds of foods they were eating were becoming quite low. However, they were eating a lot more wheat than usual. So, I can say that the intake of wheat was increasing while the intake of other foods were decreasing. Now you might have a question. Is this the start of agriculture? This was actually not quite the start of agriculture because they still were just consuming wheat. They were not planting the seeds of wheat. Like you know all about germination, you know how a seed grows into a plant, but they didn't know all this. They all knew, and they knew all of the things about wheat and how it tastes and probably all of that. I don't know if I don't think that they knew how to plant these. And there was one surprise. The more they ate wheat, the more wheat started getting planted around them. How? They didn't know about planting. They started observing. The more that they started eating wheat, the more wheat was around them. The more the wheat you intake, the more the wheat you see. That was what they saw. Let me tell you how this happened. They first took the weight on their shoulders and they started walking towards their homes. We have not talked about settlement yet, okay? So they took the weight, took them to their temporary homes, and then while taking them, some seeds actually fell off and they started growing. Climate was just perfect, weather was just perfect, all these seeds started growing in the conditions provided by nature itself. You didn't have to plant them and water them and do all those stuff. So the wheat seeds just fell down and grew into plants. Then, after processing it, some of the wheat fell down. That grew into plants. After some of the wheat ended up in the waste as well. So, in the waste, what we can say is that in the waste, all that wheat grew into new plants. So the amount of wheat started increasing. So the more they ate wheat, the more the wheat started growing around them. So what really happened is that they decided to almost stop eating all kinds of foods. They would sit by the wheat, chase away birds, other animals, and so what happened is that wheat intake increased so much that it became a habit and became a trap that humans walked into and so forgot about. Why is it a trap? I'll talk to you about it. When agriculture started, pay attention, then fights started increasing about land. Why is land important? The more the land you have, the more the wheat you get. So it started to have fights and wars. So all this resulted in deaths, famines, and other severe conditions. So it was more horrible. It was not good for our humans. It didn't benefit us. It did not benefit us. And the average farmer got a worse diet in return. When they were hunter-gatherers, they used to gather so much and get so much nutrition. But with the plain kinds of carbohydrates, your health statistics get reduced. So, what we can say is that so the wheat, slowly the climatic conditions, historians say this, the climatic conditions, they change over time, started to change over time again. And the amount of water availability became low. When the water availability became low, people started to get headachy about how to get more food. So since they could not get more food now, the women did the gathering. The women started to observe these plants that we were eating. They started to observe how a single seed falls down to the ground, gets water, and slowly turns into a wheat plant. They realized that one seed could give much more grains. So they started to think, if we give Mother Earth seeds, Mother Earth gives us seeds back, but a lot more in return. So they slowly but steadily discovered the concept of agriculture. The more they planted the seeds, the more things they earned. And they used to save the best part of their yield safely and would consume the other part. Why did they store that much safely? The best part, the best quality of wheat. I'm not talking about the best part of history or anything. So the best part of the wheat, the healthiest grains, the big grains, and the grains which had stronger stalks which could hold up this yield, start to become stored safely. Then they would plant those seeds, and after planting those seeds, the new seeds would have the same characteristics. Those new seeds would have the same genes. Those new seeds would be amazing. Amazing means that the new seeds will have good characteristics which we humans want. So this is called selective breeding. I don't know if you know what selective breeding is. So selective breeding is when humans choose a particular kind of plants to grow. Okay, so that's what selective breeding is all about. That's just the basic part. You don't need to know anything more about selective breeding right now, because we're not talking about selective breeding now, we're talking about history. So they used to choose these kinds of wheat, and they used to pass on their traits. So the wheat that gets produced is also the same quality. So now, what I can see is that this wheat gets converted into new wheat plants, and the best part of this wheat is yet again stored, and the other part of the wheat is consumed. And those seeds are sown. The best part gets safely stored, and all this happens. Now, with agriculture happened, they had to settle down. They could not keep moving around. All the plants had to grow in just one spot. How can they move around while taking care of the plants? Can plants walk? No. So the plants cannot walk with them. How will they take care of the plants if they keep on moving around like hunter-gatherers? So they had to settle down in one place. Now you might think how this is related with domestication. I'll tell you. Now, with all this happening, we can understand, or we can infer the fact that we had to settle down, take care of the wheat, and this kind of weird glue of wheat kept us at one house, didn't allow us to move around, gave us a worse diet, gave us food during the tough times, even if it was less nutritional. I'm not talking about less nutritional meaning that it was very bad for health. I'm not talking about that. It just gave us clean carbohydrates, no proteins. At least very little proteins. So we can say that till now all the humans had been domesticating their plants, or you can call this domestication, but now we are talking about domestication of animals. Now, with all this wheat growing, well, of course all the animals are going to come and check it out. Now these people had an excellent idea. Now we can just keep the animals, tie them to poles, keep them in a place, feed them the stalks of the wheat which we don't need, and take all the wheat, and we can get a nice reliable source of meat from the animals too. So this is how we started domesticating these animals. We found all kinds of ways to use them. We found all kinds of ways to interact with them. And of course, we had to take great care of the animals as well. All of this together made sure that all this domestication of animals and plants happened. And that sounds very much like the modern life of today. Thank you. Goodbye.